Hey guys, it's Justin again with another quick tutorial. This is going to be part 3 in my start to finish series. Not something I'm going to be doing on the Proto Zero, but another step that you might want to take before you head into the paint area of a kit. And that is just simple modifications. So here I'm going to show you just a handful. And by handful I just mean 2 small modifications that you can do on a kit that really don't take a lot of work and can vastly improve the look of the kit. I was originally going to show you 3, but I can't seem to find my pin vise. So, for the sake of time, I'm just going to explain the pin vise thing, and then we'll go on with what I'm trying to go on with. So, one of the most important parts of any Gundam kit is the head. It's probably the main focal point of the kit. So if there's any spot on the kit that you don't want to mess up, it's the head. But there's a lot of small things that you can do to improve the look of the head. One of them is if you take a pin vise, which is basically just a really small drill, it's a hand tool, and you bore out these little holes on the head Vulcans. It doesn't really do a whole lot, but it looks really nice. If you take pictures and people happen to notice, it'll add a lot of depth to the piece, so that people know that it's actually hollowed out. It'll look more realistic. Anyway, the first mod we're going to talk about is a really easy mod. I've already done it on here. You may or may not have already noticed. But most high grade kits, especially Gundam kits, have these little tabs on their Vfins. And there's nothing wrong with that. They are kind of like a safety thing, I think. Did I really super glue this on? But oh god, I broke it. Just as easily as it is to leave them on and leave it how it is, you can quite literally modify the piece so that they look sharper and just a little bit better. So what I do when I modify this piece is I take my cutters, and I just kind of try and line that up as best I can, and I cut it off, but I don't cut it all off. You want to cut most of it, but not the whole thing. Then I'll take a high grit or a low grit sandpaper, excuse me, something nice and rough, and you want to get the rest of that gunk away. So let's set that down right there. And just like that, but we're not done. We're going to go ahead and fold this over and get the front piece. And what you want to do is kind of match the contour of the V-fin with the sandpaper and just kind of work at it slowly. Until it's really hard to do on the viewfinder. Until it's more of a point. You can see how this one's a little more pointed and this one's a little more rounded. Alternatively, you can just kind of sand at one side at a time until you get the desired effect that you want. It might take a little longer, but it might be a little neater. So, depending on how much of a rush you're in. But it's a really simple mod to do, really easy, and provides a subtle yet sharp effect. So, the next mod is a little bit more complicated, and I don't know, it's not really something I'd recommend if it's your first kit. But if you've got a couple under your belt, there's nothing wrong with giving it a go. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying it if you're on your first kit either, but basically what I've done here is I've done the same kind of thing, except I've actually extended the piece on the top and the bottom. This is what they originally looked like. They have the same kind of safety things. But these actually are just little safety bumps. And I guess they're just meant to be cut off, but I felt like extending them. So, just so you can see the extra bit. There you go. So, now the way that I did this mod, it takes a little bit of time. It actually takes a lot of time. But I think that the work you put in is well worth all the effort. I followed basically the same procedure. I kind of line this up, and I cut that off. Same thing for the other side. And you could truthfully sand those down to neaten them up a little bit and just leave it like that. But we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go the extra mile here. So you sand it down just to make sure it's nice and even. This one needs a little more sanding than the other one did. Looking good. And like I said, you can leave it like that, but I've already done one, so I might as well do the other. But you just basically cement a sheet of styrene to the fin, and what I'm using here is the plastic weld again. And if you think it'll help, you can disassemble a piece. That's entirely up to you. I did the whole thing with it assembled. It didn't really hinder me in any way, but if you're more comfortable working from a single piece, that's fine. Completely up to you. So for the sake of this, we'll just go ahead and do that. So there's our piece. Here's our styrene. And you want to line it up so that it kind of goes along with the edge. Because if you put it like this, you're just gonna, sell yourself short and waste your sheet. So you want it to be kind of like this, closer to the bottom, so you get a longer piece. So just put a little bit of this on here. Put a little bit of this on the edge that we're going to use. So just like that. And we press the two together. And then I like to kind of hold it on both sides because it's not glue, it's not going to stick to your hands or anything like that. It might be a little sticky like that, but not a huge deal. And that's just because this cement is melting the plastic together. So once you get it kind of there, you want to make sure that it's nice and straight. And what I like to do is put some on both sides. And this stuff dries and cures really quickly, so it's nice to work with. But I still wouldn't recommend messing with it straight away. Give it a little bit of time to actually dry up before you start messing with it. And I definitely cut a larger piece than I needed, but I can always cut this up and do something else with it. So give me a few moments, I'll come back when this is dried and we will move on to the next step. Alright, so once your glue has cured, you just kind of use your cutters and kind of trim the plastic up a little bit and get it into a smaller shape. Alternatively, you could just cut it into cut and glue a smaller shape to your piece to begin with, unlike what I did. But then you take a really low grit sandpaper, this is 300 grit, and you just start working at the piece. Try not to be too rough, because even though you've cemented and bonded the two pieces together, you can still undo that very easily. So just, be cautious. But I like to work at it from all angles. I try to get the sides. The top, the bottom, just everything. Just so that I know that it's smooth everywhere. Like I said, just try not to apply too much pressure. You can also take your knife and kind of scrape plastic off if you think that it's uneven. Which this is. It's a little better. But you keep at it, and you will eventually get the result that you were looking for. And occasionally you might end up with some roughness on your pieces. Just go ahead and add a little bit of the glue, or cement rather. Excuse me, and that should clear some of that up. And this one's not coming out the way that I really want it. It's a little bent. It's a little better. But yeah, there you go. That's basically all you have to do. Just, like I said, take your time. Don't worry about moving too fast. the slower you work, the more likely you are to get it right without making too many mistakes, unlike me right now. That's just because I want to fit it into one video. There we go. That's better. Still not perfect, but a lot better. And that's pretty much what you're looking at. Just try to make sure it matches pretty well. It doesn't have to be exact, but this one looks pretty close. It's good enough for me. So I'm gonna go do the other one. But that's my little tutorial on modifying pieces and you know, just simple mods you can do to improve the look of your Gundam kits. Of course, there's all kinds of other things that you can do to make your kits look better, including you know, adding claw plate, you know, adding other kinds of details. Actually, shoot, I forgot the other part of the tutorial I was going to do. So, hold on. Yeah, that's extending. You can use that on other things like blades and stuff like that as well. You can use it on the wings, for example, on like the Ale Strike here, you can use it on the wings, and other things. The last thing I'm going to show you is super quick. That's why I almost forgot. Let's clear all this junk off here so I don't lose pieces. I'm not actually going to use this on the Ale Strike. I'm going to go ahead and stick this on, I don't know. Let's do this spare piece for this, excuse me, SD EZ8. So, let's say I want to add some detail to the foot here. I'll just put two little things on the front of each foot. So what I have here is just a really small square, you know, not tube, but like a little, it's like a rectangle, I guess, I don't know, of styrene. I'm going to cut that into 4. And I'm going to use something flat just to line it up and make sure that all 4 of these are the same. If I can get them to stop bouncing off of one another, that'd be great. And I'm just gonna chop them. Alright, so here's my 4 little pieces. You can barely see them. They're super tiny. Excuse me. Now what I'm going to do is use just a tiny dab of this stuff, and I'm going to glue them to the front of the feet. It's really as easy as that. So, pick it up. Where's the viewfinder? Take that, put just a dab of that on there, and drop it on the front of the piece. This is the one instance where super glue worked better, but created more work. Well, you can apply it to the front of the piece as well. So, that's kind of where I want it. just try to position as best I can and stick it on there. Oh, we're going to use the super glue. It works a lot better. There we go. Just a dot of super glue. Oops, I picked the whole thing up. Well, whatever. There. You just kind of nudge it around until you get where you want it. Alternatively, you can just kind of do the same thing here. You just put little trace amounts of super glue on the piece. Drop the styrene where you want it, if you get it to stick anyway. The only problem with this method is that super glue tends to stick to everything. So if you use too much, it's a little difficult to maintain control of. But if you can get it the way you want it, it works really well. Alternatively, you can put some super glue on like a toothpick and do it that way. Another fun way to do it is to just do it with your knife. That dried quick. It's already dried. Look at that. Well, whatever, you get it. Just for the sake of demonstration, more than actual execution. But you can stab it with your knife and just kind of position it until you get it where you want it. But the trade-off with the super glue is that you have to work quicker. But if you use a knife, it's really nice because you can kind of pick it up the way that you want it to be held anyway. So you don't have to worry too much about it. And you just drop it on the piece. And it's done. So, the reason I didn't do that on the strike is because there's not really anywhere I want to do it on the strike yet. I haven't really planned out all the mods for that yet. So, maybe I'll redo this section if I decide to add any of those little bits to the strike when I start working on it. But that is enough, other kits. From here on out, we should be focused on this guy. It's time to get into painting. So, I'll see you guys at the next video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Later.